So now we have what to eat, we have where to sleep, we have an income. Our problems is nothing to compare with anything that any other generation saw, especially not the generation of the Holocaust. We all of a sudden realize that the governments can be manipulating us through the media and through other channels. Okay, good. You're keeping track of what's happening. It's very good. What is the conclusion of all your keeping track of what's happening? Long live the King Messiah. This is Yossi Edery, and today we're going to talk about a small spark. The Lubavitcher Rebbe teaches us that sometimes a small spark is all that a Jew needs. The rest he will do himself. Today I'm here to remind everyone about the only thing I remind people about: Moshiach, Messiah. This is not only for Jews, it's for every single person in the entire world. People know what Kabbalah is. 80% of religious Jews, 99% of the world, which do not comprehend how important this specific aspect is. And what is that aspect? That aspect is that the Lubavitcher Rebbe is the King Messiah. Let's talk about it on a political level. First of all, people of the world, if you believe in a super being, if you believe in God, whether you are Muslim or a Christian or a Jew or an atheist or a Buddhist, if you believe that there is a power, an energy that controls everything, if you believe in the Illuminati, that there is some kind of people who are twirling things around, then you should know that in Judaism we know an ancient saying, 3,000 years old, or maybe even more, that Lev Sarim Melachim B'Yad Hashem, the hearts of kings and ministers is in the hands of God. So we see that as high as an atheist, so to speak, on a logical level can get and explain why politicians do things, all of a sudden sometimes you just can't figure it out. And when logic finishes, you realize that logic ain't the power. So we tell you that in Judaism there is something that is higher than logic, and it says that the hearts, which means all of a sudden someone gets an urge, like a judge. One day he wants this, and the next day he says that, and he tells you to prepare this, and then when you actually come to the court case, he doesn't even want to see what he told you to prepare. That's all in God's hands. And this is an ancient saying, and it stands, and it logically fits in. Let's get to the chase. Christians believe that he is Messiah. Muslims believe that he's a prophet. Christians don't have validity because they went on crusades killing people and crucifying people. The church right now, people don't know what the deal is. The Pope is not denouncing gay marriage and a couple other important things. Christianity is not anything specifically substantial. I went to a Christian, I asked him, "Are you a Christian?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "Orthodox?" "Yeah." "What does that mean?" He said, "Well, I go to church every Sunday." I said, "That's it?" He said, "That's it." I said, "Do you go to church? Which church do you go to?" He said, "Well, now I don't go to church." I said, "Why not?" He said, "They speak Spanish. I don't speak Spanish. It's the only church in the community. I don't go to church." So that's the end of his religion. Very good. A Jew, he has to pray 3 times a day. He has to wear stuff. He has to put on boxes on his head and on his hand. He has to do things. His entire diet is changed. His entire lifestyle is changed. The way he walks, the way he sits, the way he stands. Everything is calculated according to the way God wants it. That's called a religion. Muslims, obviously you have people that, they heard about something, even in Christian faith. There's a reason why God threw this thing out in the meantime. Because it still keeps people from killing each other. It still reminds people that there is someone watching. To a certain extent, it reminds people that there is a higher being. But in the actual world, it's not really a religion. It's maybe a gateway, at best, to the true Messiah. And the same thing is the Muslim faith. We see that the extremists in the Muslim faith completely drop the entire faith situation. They go around chopping people's heads off. What's left of the Muslim faith besides chopped meat? Obviously, Muhammad and the Christian Messiah, the God's plan is not our plans. He knew that not everyone's going to take the truth right when it comes. So he made these 2 channels. And those who are not ready to face it, that the Jews are the chosen people and to go in their ways, still have some kind of a moral basis. But right now, at the end of days, we are the 7th generation, and the 7th generation is the blessed generation. It is time to stand up. It is time that governments go down and the Messiah and God take over his world. How this is going to happen is very, very simple. We the people. God is already training us something that no other generation has ever trained us. That we the people matter. That what you think about your government, about your regime, makes a difference. And that you can decide to take upon yourself which king you want. We see it in Venezuela. We see it in the fight against Boko Haram. We see it in every single government in the world right now, there's a common denominator between every single revolution. The people are deciding who's their boss. Call him a prime minister, call him a president. Before elections, they get nervous. The people start figuring out what they really think is important. You know, if, for example, in Venezuela, 25,000 people were killed in 1 year, they said, we're done with this. It might be good for some people, but this government doesn't know how to control the deaths. It does not police the people properly. Bye-bye. So the same thing is with Boko Haram. They slaughter Christians and Muslims in the name of Islam. These are not people of God. And thank God, a lot of governments are changing for the better. Don't try to get to the bottom of all this, because there is no bottom of all this. God, as we said, is twirling everyone on their finger. Now, what does this do to a person like me and you? What this does to a person like me and you is say, hey, look, the people have power. In America, people are sick and tired of a government which is twirling corporations and taking bribes in order to throw certain agendas and to keep the people stupid by poisoning their brain with all the garbage that there is. And that's just a note, I'll just say it right now. Anybody that has social media accounts, anybody that has any way of publicizing things should be very, very careful when you publicize. Everything that you publicize will be watched or potentially be watched by hundreds of thousands of maybe even millions of people. So when you put something out, make sure it's clean. Make sure you're not going to start counting sins that are your fault that you can't keep track of. So it's enough what people do in their own private life. But when you're advertising, when you're sharing stuff on social media just because it's funny, make sure it's not sinful. Make sure it's not disrespectful to God. Okay, moving on. Once you realize that it's up to you to decide your democracy, and we're seeing it right now in the US, that Trump is not a politician. He's pushing to get into office. He's the only one that's not a politician from the entire candidate race. And it's very, very interesting that this time, the candidate race started very, very early. It started very, very early. And you might say, well, maybe Obama wasn't such a good guy, so that's why it started early. I'll give you another reason why it started early. Because I made a video. Vote Messiah for president. Mashiach for president. I made a video, vote Mashiach for president. Very, very early, about maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. Only after that, the entire election campaign struck off. And it's considered early because why are you striking off your election campaign 2.5, 3 years, 4 years before it even matters? But because whatever happens in the Jewish ultra-Orthodox community, where God is pushing to try to get into this world, He's just trying to wait till we make Him a vessel, that we actually say, okay, God, you're in charge, take it, it's yours. You want a King Messiah? It's yours. What are the laws? The laws? We'll figure it out. We'll look through the Bible. We'll tear ourselves apart. We'll find out what the laws are. Oh, the laws are he has to be a son of King David, son after son from King David. Okay, he has to influence the entire Jewish population to go in the Bible's way, in the Torah way, not in any other revised version like Christianity or anything else. Okay, so he has to be a righteous man, very popular because he has to influence the entire Jewish population to go in the Bible's way. He is the Lubavitcher Rebbe. If you have any other candidates, go ahead. But the point is, you're looking for the King Messiah. You're looking for that person that sleeps only 2 hours a night or maybe less. You're looking for that person that doesn't stop worrying for the entire Jewish people. And once you know that it's also considered a spiritual quest here, we're going to have to rely and show our trust in God while we do this. That's why we do not see the Rebbe at this moment. He officially passed away. But that doesn't matter because Messiah can be from the dead as well, according to Jewish law. But once we have to take upon ourselves, first of all, that we believe and we have faith and we trust in God and we realize our power, the people's power to choose a king. And it's becoming very, very evident. Now, it's up to us to decide how fast we want this to happen. Do we want to take upon ourselves a King Messiah even before Trump becomes president? Or are we going to hang around and chill and waste our time. You see, because Trump can be much better than some other dude, but he's also a man of flesh and blood. He's just like me and you. He goes to the bathroom, he takes showers, he goes to sleep, he eats. He's not God. God appointed one man that is humble like Moses, that brought the Torah to Mount Sinai, the Bible, and that is called the King Messiah. God knows what he wants, and he's been waiting since the day he created this world for us to be on the same page as him. And God's benefit plan is much better than anybody else's benefit plan. God's benefit plan is the unlimited, my friend. It's the gold platinum card that you swipe and you do whatever you want. Every single Jew will have 3,000 slaves, which are honorary people, which are ready to help the Jewish people serve God. They're not going to be slaves like you see slavery in these days. It's slaves as in, we are going to help servants, advisors to the Jewish people, and they will be wholeheartedly ready to give their life over for a Jew, and they will be in charge of managing all his physical needs. All we need to do now is wake up, take upon ourselves the King Messiah. That is the point here. When we are ready, that's when it happens. When we're not ready, that's when it doesn't happen. We the people, not just of the US, but of the entire world. Not just in Israel, but not only the Jews, but the entire world. The entire population has to unite under God. We have to go for the gold. The only thing right now that is bothering people is the fact that the governments are still twisted. Everything else is sorted out for us. The governments are still twisted. God is making this phase that we should see that governments twisted actually matters. Till now, we were so oppressed, we didn't have what to eat. Ask your parents, ask your Bubby and Zaidi if they were biting into apples with worms. You don't even know what that is. So now we have what to eat, we have where to sleep, we have an income. Our problems is nothing to compare with anything that any other generation saw, especially not the generation of the Holocaust. We all of a sudden realize that the governments can be manipulating us through the media and through other channels. Okay, good. You're keeping track of what's happening. It's very good. What is the conclusion of all your keeping track of what's happening? That should be establish a King Messiah, no fear. Keep walking, you're almost there. Establish a King Messiah. You want to take a different rabbi? Go ahead. I'm just learning for the last 5 years or more, since I was a child really, about these laws. And my conclusions, my humble conclusions are the Lubavitcher Rebbe, King Messiah, Mashiach, the real Mashiach, the only Mashiach, the only one who actually stood up for the entire Jewish population and affected the entire Jewish population to strengthen themselves in the Torah, is the Lubavitcher Rebbe, King Messiah. There are a lot of obvious questions, like if it can be the Lubavitcher Rebbe, then why can't it be a different great rabbi from an earlier generation that was also one in his generation that affected the entire generation? All these questions find in my notes on my Facebook page. My name is Yosef Edery, Yosefedery. Picture of the Rebbe is my icon. You go into my notes, you will see I answer over there the difference between Judaism and Christianity regarding Messiah. I answer over there how the Rebbe is alive. I answer over there how the Rebbe is Messiah. Now obviously there's one thing I don't explain over there, and that is the faith, and that is the spark that we spoke about in the beginning of this video. That I'm leaving to you, and so is God. Here is where I end, and here is where you start. Yechi Hamelech.